My name is Zara Khan, and for most of my life, I thought I knew exactly who the villain was. I was 8 years old when I sat outside the gates of Malik Industries, waiting for my dad to finish work. Every evening, workers came out laughing, talking, heading home to their families. That day felt different. The crowd got smaller, the sun got lower, and then I saw my father walking toward me carrying a cardboard box. No coworkers beside him, no smiles, no goodbye. Just a man staring at the ground like something inside him had died. I didn't understand it then. I do now. My father had worked for Malik Industries for 22 years. 22 years of loyalty. 22 years of showing up before sunrise and leaving after dark. Then one day, he discovered financial fraud inside the company. He reported it. A week later, he was fired. A month later, he was accused of stealing money himself. A year later, nobody would hire him. Every interview ended the same way. Every opportunity disappeared the moment people heard his name. I watched my father slowly become a ghost while he was still alive. Bills stacked up on our kitchen table. Collection notices filled our mailbox. The man who used to laugh at dinner barely spoke anymore. And then one morning, I woke up and realized I couldn't remember the last time I heard him laugh. When I was 21, my father died. His name was never cleared. His case was never resolved. And I carried that anger with me everywhere I went. I carried it into college. I carried it into law school. I carried it into every courtroom I ever stepped inside. People think success feels like winning. For me, it felt more like surviving. I didn't have connections. I didn't have family money. I had a library card and my father's old law textbooks. I still remember a professor looking me straight in the eye and telling me I was smart enough for legal aid, but not tough enough for criminal litigation. The next morning, I signed up for criminal litigation. Not because I was confident, because I was angry. I remember getting a scholarship letter and celebrating with leftover rice because I couldn't afford takeout. I remember becoming a federal judge and taking a picture of myself because nobody came to the ceremony. Nobody. Not one person. And honestly, that hit different. But I survived. I kept going. I kept building. Or at least I thought I was building. Then Shahzad Malik walked back into my life. The same Shahzad Malik whose company destroyed my father. The same Shahzad Malik whose name haunted my childhood. The same Shahzad Malik sitting in my courtroom, accused of stealing millions from workers. The case landed on my desk. I accepted it. Because judges don't get to choose their history. They choose whether they're controlled by it. Then something happened nobody expected. On the very first day, Shahzad Malik pleaded guilty. No trial. No fight. No strategy. No performance. Just guilty. The room lost its mind. His lawyers looked shocked. The media went crazy. Everyone thought he was protecting someone bigger. Everyone except me. Because when I looked at him, I didn't see fear. I saw relief. Like a man carrying a weight so heavy for so long that prison felt lighter. That feeling stayed with me. So I started digging. I told myself I was looking for answers. Maybe I was really looking for revenge. I don't know. What I found changed everything. A scholarship record. Then another. Then another. Every scholarship I ever received. Every emergency grant. Every opportunity that appeared exactly when I needed it most. All connected to the same private trust. A trust created the same year my father lost his job. I kept reading. My hands started shaking. Because at the bottom of the founding documents was a signature. One signature. Shahzad Malik. I read it again. And again. And again. I wanted it to be fake. I wanted it to be a mistake. And the night I found Shahzad Malik's signature on those documents, I didn't go home. I sat alone in my chambers staring at the city through a wall of glass. Thousands of lights stretched across the darkness. Thousands of lives, thousands of stories, and somewhere among them was the truth I'd spent 20 years chasing without even knowing it. I told myself to stop. I told myself the case wasn't personal. I told myself a federal judge doesn't investigate her own defendant. Then I opened another file, and another, and another. By 3 in the morning, I had covered my desk with documents, scholarship records, grant approvals, recommendation letters, emergency aid requests. Every major turning point in my life had one thing in common. Whenever I was about to fall, somebody caught me. When I couldn't pay tuition, somebody paid it. When I couldn't afford rent, somebody stepped in. When I nearly lost my internship because of a clerical mistake, somebody made a phone call. I spent 20 years believing I was climbing alone. Now it looked like someone had been standing beneath me the entire time, making sure I didn't hit the ground. And that someone was Shahzad Malik, the same man whose company destroyed my father, the same man I had hated since I was a child. The next morning, I looked terrible. Rihan noticed immediately. You look like you fought a bear. I lost. That bad? Worse. He sat down. What did you find? I looked at him. I found a reason to stop digging. And and I kept digging. Rihan closed his eyes. Judge, one day you're gonna give me a heart attack. I almost smiled. Almost. That afternoon, I visited the evidence archive. A retired records manager helped me locate files from 22 years earlier. Boxes covered in dust. Forgotten. Ignored. Buried, just like my father's case. I spent hours reading every page. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A witness statement, missing from every official record. My father's name had been cleared internally 6 months after he was fired. 6 months, someone knew he was innocent. Someone buried the evidence. I sat frozen. Because if that was true, then my father spent his final years carrying a lie somebody could have corrected. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him sitting at our kitchen table. Bills everywhere. His shoulders bent, his eyes empty. I used to think poverty broke him. Now I realize something worse had, hopelessness. A week later, I requested a private meeting with Shahzad Malik. No reporters, no lawyers, no audience, just the two of us. When they brought him into the holding room, he looked exactly the way he had in court. Tired, not scared. Not angry, just tired. He sat across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I slid the documents across the table. His eyes fell on the signature. He knew immediately. You found it. It wasn't a question. I nodded. You funded my life. Another nod. Still no excuses. Still no defense, just acceptance. I stared at him. For years I imagined this moment. I imagined screaming, accusing, demanding answers. Instead, I just felt exhausted. Why? He looked down at his hands. Because for the first time since I'd met him, Shahzad Malik looked ashamed. When your father reported the fraud, I thought he was wrong. His voice was quiet. I trusted the wrong people. I didn't move. I signed papers, approved investigations, listened to executives who lied to me. His eyes lifted. And your father paid for it. The room felt smaller. I wanted to hate him. God, I wanted to hate him. It would have been easier. But there was no arrogance in front of me. No excuses, no performance, only regret. When did you learn the truth? 8 months later. I closed my eyes. 8 months. My father had already lost everything. What did you do? I tried to fix it. A bitter laugh escaped me. You failed. Yes, neither of us looked away. He accepted that too. I offered settlements, public corrections, financial restitution. What happened? Your father refused every offer. That sounded exactly like him. Pride was one thing he never lost. I couldn't give him his life back. His voice cracked for the first time. So I tried to give you yours. Silence. The words landed somewhere deep inside me, the part of me that was still 8 years old, the part still waiting outside that factory gate. I don't forgive you. I know. I probably never will. I know. Another silence. Then I asked the question that had haunted me for weeks. Why plead guilty? For the first time, he smiled, not happily, sadly. Because this time I knew the truth before it was too late. He explained everything. Executives inside Malik Industries had been stealing pension funds for years. They hid the losses. manipulated records, destroyed evidence. When he discovered it, he realized history was repeating itself. Only this time, he wasn't going to let someone else take the blame. He turned everything over, including evidence against himself, including decisions that could send him to prison, because he was done running, done hiding, done carrying it. When I left that room, I sat alone in my car for almost an hour, not driving, not thinking, just existing. Because the world I'd built my identity around no longer made sense. The villain wasn't a villain. The hero wasn't a hero. The truth was messier. Human beings usually are. Weeks later, the courtroom was packed again. Workers filled every seat. Some were retired. Some were close to retirement. Some had lost their savings. Some had lost decades. I looked at them before I looked at Shahzad Malik. That mattered. Because this story wasn't really about us. It never was. The law isn't therapy. It isn't revenge. It's responsibility. I read the verdict. My voice never shook. My hands never trembled. Guilty, full restitution ordered, professional licenses revoked, criminal referrals approved. Every legal consequence available under the law. When I finished reading, the courtroom stayed silent. No applause, no dramatic speeches, no movie ending, just reality. The marshals stepped forward. Shahzad Malik stood. For a second, our eyes met. There was sadness there. Relief, too, like a man finally reaching the end of a very long road. Then he nodded once, and I nodded back, nothing more, nothing less. After everyone left, I returned to my chambers. The room felt different, lighter somehow. I opened my desk drawer. Inside was my father's old law textbook, the same one I'd carried through college, through law school, through every step of my career. I opened it to a random page. There, written in faded blue ink, was a note in his handwriting. The law doesn't care who you are, that's the whole point. I stared at it for a long time, then I laughed, then I cried, not because of Shahzad Malik, not because of the case. Because for the first time in 20 years, my father was innocent again. Maybe not in the eyes of everyone, maybe not in the history books, but in the only place that mattered, the truth. I closed the book, turned off the lights, and walked out. This time, I didn't look back.